Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Adrian Mung from the World Economic Forum, and it's my great pleasure to introduce and open this press conference with the Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Ban Ki-moon. Mr. Moon will speak for some introductory remarks and then he'll take questions. We have around 20 minutes for this press conference, so we will keep it on strict Swiss time. My apologies for opening 3 minutes late. That's my fault, I'm afraid. And without further ado, I'll hand over to Mr. Ban.
Thank you for your introduction. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to see you again this year. The world has changed dramatically since last year's World Economic Forum. Revolutions has swept across North Africa and Middle East, bringing new freedoms and democracy, but also new challenges as well. Issues of economic inequality and social justice have come to dominate the global debate. From North Africa to New York, Athens to Abidjan, people everywhere are demanding change. They call out for dignity, they demand justice, a better and more fair deal. They want jobs, opportunities, and global markets that work for all people, not just the elites. Ladies and gentlemen, just recently, the world's population reached 7 billion. 5 years from now, that figure will grow by 500 million. That means food, water, energy, jobs, sanitation, 500 million people will need on top of current needs. This is a huge challenge, and we must rise to it. During the events of the Arab Spring, the United Nations called loudly on the region's leaders to listen to their people. I urged them to be bold, to change, to reform before it was too late. Some did and benefited, others did not, and they have reaped the whole world. Today I call on the leaders gathered in Davos to listen as well. I call on them to hear the voices of their people, and I urge them to do more, to address their legitimate aspirations to do much more. 2 days ago at UN headquarters in New York, I presented to the member states of the United Nations a comprehensive agenda for action for my second term as a Secretary General and also beyond. It is grounded in 5 imperatives, 5 generational opportunities to create the future we want. Even though you must have already read them, I would like to just briefly repeat. First, by promoting sustainable development. Second, by systematically privileging prevention of conflict, human rights abuses, and the impact of natural disasters. Third, innovating on our core business of peace and security, humanitarian work, democracy, and human rights. And fourth, by supporting nations in transition. And fifth, and by working with and for women and young people. These are 5 areas where opportunity and need come together like never before. If we act together, we can wipe out the death from 5 of the world's biggest killers over the next 5 years. Malaria, polio, new pediatric HIV infections, maternal and neonatal tetanus, and measles. This unprecedented feat is truly possible. We can set the foundations for a new generation of sustainable development goals, building on the Millennium Development Goals, advancing our development agenda beyond 2015. My meetings in Davos have focused on energy, health, and the upcoming Rio +20 conference. Our goal is to mobilize global action and galvanize the power of global partnership. The CEOs and entrepreneurs at the World Economic Forum are key players. That's why United Nations has cut the ribbon on a new relationship with the private sector. we declare ourselves open for business. Businesses around the world are putting sustainability and social issues higher on their corporate agenda. We have promising work underway on energy, access, health, water scarcity, human rights, gender equality, and anti-corruption, much of it supported by the private sector. But we are far from the transformation needed. I urge the chief executives here in Davos and everywhere to join us. There is a new business model emerging in the United Nations where governments, private sector, finance, philanthropists, and civil society come together to solve public problems. By working together, by dedicating our energies and resources to our common cause, we have the chance today to move the needle for generations to come. We can create the future we want. Thank you for your attention, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary General. Can I just get a sense in the room of how many questions there are? Can you just raise a hand if you've got a question, and then when I come to you, if you can just give us your name and your news organisation, that would be fantastic. We're going to start with the lady in the first row.
Thank you very much. Yan Qingyang from China Business News. It seems to me that we are facing a chaotic world after the crisis, especially in 2012, in terms of the economic situation, in terms of the political cooperation between the different stakeholders. But I think that the big theme of the Winter Davos gave us a kind of a solution, a sign of the solution. We have to find the new models. So in terms of the global governance, do you see any sign that we have found some clues of the new models in global governance? Thank you very much.
Sir.
Certainly we are living in an era of uncertainty. The global economic growth has been slowing since middle of last year, 2011. And I'm afraid to say that all the predictions say that this trend may continue well beyond 2012, creating significant challenges for the well-being of millions, even billions of people around the world, particularly in poorest countries. This is what we have to do. Then people have been discussing about how we have to address these challenges. Davos Forum is very good venue where government leaders, business CEOs, NGOs, they come together and discuss about the new models and the responses to these changing situations. That's why I'm here and I'm meeting a lot of government officials and business CEOs, how we can strengthen our partnership, how we can work together in coping with this. You have seen the G20 meetings have been addressing these issues, but there were also concerns that the G20 countries have been dealing with their own economic problems. That's why I have been urging G20 leaders that while I would welcome strongly for their stimulus packages to overcome this financial crisis, they should never lose sight of this plight and challenges of developing world. Now, this was the message that I have been delivering to world leaders. First, we have to do all to save our planet, to revitalize our economy, to address all this social injustice, social inequality. These are the calls from many countries, both developed and developing world. You have seen Occupy Wall Street, Occupy all Europe or whatever. These are coming from even the developed world now, not only from a developing world. That is why I'm urging that we need to invest in sustainable development. That is why UN takes sustainable development as top priority in addressing these issues. There are many issues like climate change, food crisis, water scarcity, energy shortages, and gender empowerment, oceans and cities. All these are interconnected issues, and therefore, in investing sustainable energy, sustainable development, that will help revitalize the economy, that will help protect this planet Earth, that will spread the benefit of these modern technologies and development. That's my message. Yeah. Thank you.
Can I get a sense, we haven't got a huge amount of time, just looking around the room of where questions are, so we'll try and take 2 or 3 together. So if you can be brief with your question.
I'm not from Sweden. Do you think that the business, the companies needs to do more to take social responsibility?
Okay, business, more social responsibility. Just moving towards lady there.
The EU has announced an oil embargo against Iran. How do you see this rising tensions? My name is Alexandra Föderl from the Austrian daily Der Standard.
Okay, rising tensions, oil embargo, Iran. And
Yes,
gentleman at the back, just behind. Thanks.
Secretary General spoke about some of the Arab leaders needing to be more... Sorry, Secretary General spoke about some of the Arab leaders needing to be more bold in their approach. Can you talk a little about the boldness you'd expect to see from President Assad in Syria?
Okay, so sir, that's
Okay.
business showing more social responsibility. Comments on the Iranian oil embargo and on Syria.
Business responsibility, what we call corporate responsibility, this has become one of the important agendas. I'm meeting today with many business CEOs who are the members of the UN Global Compact. There is a crucially important role to be played by business communities. They have the capacity in terms of financial resources. They have the capacity to innovate technologies. And they have social and moral responsibility to spread all these messages of social equity as business CEOs. That's why I'm meeting them and I'm urging them to be part of United Nations drive to realize a social sustainable development. In fact, many companies, they have been investing a lot of money in renewable energy, in improving efficiency of energy. And this is the important part. I believe that energy is central to everything we want to achieve. It's central to everything we live in this world. That's one thing. This global compact has 10 principles. There's a good management, or including human rights, and social responsibility, anti-corruption, transparency, accountability. All these are very good principles by which this business should operate. And in this time of economic difficulties, it's all the more important that the business leaders, they should lead by example in addressing these issues. On Iran, I have been speaking out many times, publicly, privately. There are 5 Security Council resolutions already adopted, including 4 resolutions on sanctions on Iran. What is important at this time is 2 things. First of all, Iran should fully comply with the relevant Security Council resolutions. All the member states of the United Nations have responsibility, political and legal, to fully comply with the Security Council resolutions. They have not done yet. And they have to prove themselves that their nuclear development program is genuinely for peaceful purposes, which they have not done yet. I am deeply concerned by the report of the most recent IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency report, indicating that there is a possibility of a military dimension in Iranian nuclear development programs. on which they say this is a peaceful. Onus is on Iranian side. At the same time, I'm urging East 3+3 and Iran engage in a dialogue. There is no other alternatives in addressing this crisis than a peaceful dialogue, peaceful resolution through a dialogue. And on this Arab Spring, last year, we have seen the remarkable situations. Many people came to the street and yearning for democracy, freedom, and dignity. That is why I have made this helping those countries in transition as one of my 5 generational opportunities. Because this kind of a situation doesn't come often. It comes once in a generation or so. If you look the history, beginning from the end of Second World War, you will see almost once in a generation you have seen epochal, historical development, starting from democratization process in Eastern Europe in late 1950s, and in 1960s, 70s in Asia, including my own country. And then you have seen the fall of Berlin Wall, collapse of Cold War in late 80s and 90s. Then it has come after a generation. So we have to seize this moment. We have to help those people because they have been oppressed so long without any way to depend, appeal. Now they have come out. Women and young people, they are yearning for these aspirations. That's why I have been urging leaders to listen very sincerely, carefully to their aspirations. I'm going to continue to do that, and I'm encouraged that when it comes to Syrian situation, the League of Arab States have made a resolution trying to resolve this issue through a political process. The Secretary General of the League of Arab States and the chairman of this, the Qatari Prime Minister, are coming to UN Security Council to brief them. I hope that the Security Council will be able to act in a coherent, in same voice. Thank you.
Mr. Ban, thank you very much. I'm afraid to say we're almost at the limit of our time. If we've got time for a very brief 1 minute.
One more.
Okay, one more question. Lady just there with the blonde hair. You, ma'am.
Jane Martinson from The Guardian. Can you say more about the position of women, which is one of your 5 agendas, whether you're disappointed with international support for UN women, and how you go about pushing that agenda in places in the developing world or even places like China?
One of top priorities during my first term as a Secretary General was to improving the political, social, and economic status of women. Women holds up the half the sky. More than the half of the population of the world are women. Therefore, fully utilizing the potentials of women can accelerate in addressing all these difficult challenges, including current economic and financial crisis. I believe that the least utilized resources of this world are women potentials. That's why UN has taken this and established UN Women. There is a very strong support from the international community to this UN Women. But supporting this any agency dealing with women is not enough. There must be fundamental changes in the mindset of the world leaders and the world community. Particularly, we need the political leaders' changes of their mindset. Otherwise, it will not change. That's why, as a Secretary General, I have been speaking out very strongly. And I have been leading this by example. You come to United Nations and see how UN has changed. There were very few senior women who were in the decision-making process. I have appointed quite the number of women in undersecretaries' positions. This is the highest, senior-most positions. We have one Secretary General, one Deputy Secretary General, then most of the senior-most, they are the Undersecretary Generals. Now you have many. There are many, at least 7 women who are now commanding UN peacekeeping operations and political missions in the field. There were none. There were only 2 or 3 in the 60 years of history. So there's a huge change. But changes in the United Nations is not enough. They have to change all throughout the member state of the United Nations. Often, I've been challenging the leaders, publicly or privately. You must change your system to allow women to proceed and take more important decision-making process, particularly in political positions, like becoming parliamentarians or ministers or ambassadors. But more importantly, I'm focusing on political opportunities so that they can be part of this changing the systems. That I will continue. And I need the support of a journalist. You are the connectors of United Nations. Myself, these messages should be connected to all throughout the world, particularly to the leaders. And I count on your support. I thank you very much.
Mr. Ban, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.